Here's another video from the archives. Today, we're going to be watching a practice run from Mammoth in 2015 for the National Championships. Unfortunately, the quality of this video isn't as high as I wanted it. I threw out the original file, and so this is actually a video that I ripped off from my Facebook page. Alright, so we'll watch this video all the way through, and then at the end of the video, I'll go back and highlight a few things that you probably didn't notice or I found pretty interesting. Alright, I put a timer in the bottom corner so you could see what my time would have been. That was about a 3:33, not super accurate since I'm just judging by video. So the interesting thing is I had about the same time during my race run, but during the actual race I had a flat and I also crashed. So that goes to show you how fast I must have been going. Anytime you crash, you lose about 5 seconds because you still have to get back up to speed. The other thing, I also had a flat, so that probably took off another 2 to 3 seconds. So really unfortunate because I probably would have made a top 10 pretty easily, and maybe even top 5, but you never know what happened to other riders too. So now I want to take the time to go back to the top and point out a few things you didn't notice. So we're going to take a look at the gap that I was talking about if you listen to Seth's podcast. This is a gap that I did right in front of Aaron Gwynn, not in this practice run, but in another practice run. I was the first rider to try it, and I think only 1 or 2 other riders ended up doing it. It was a pretty tough gap because you really had to nail the turn right before it, which was actually pretty blind, and then get as much pump as possible out of the compression. It's hard to tell from this video, but the consequences for messing it up were pretty bad because you were jumping over some pretty big boulders, and right before you landed, there's some pretty pointy rocks. So it was a high commitment, but big reward because it probably shaved off 2 to 3 seconds, honestly. So funny enough, that rider right there is one of my former teammates. His dad was actually the one who sponsored me, and now he's actually going to the same school as me. So a little further down the trail, you had the main rock garden, and this is actually where it crashed. It happened right here as I was coming out of the rock garden. My back end just got kicked out funny, and I just slid out. Wasn't too bad, but still sucked. So right now I'm approaching the second rock garden. This one I also had a very unique line choice that no one else was doing. I didn't see anyone doing this line the whole weekend. So the one thing about this section is you had to really slow down to hit this drop, and I didn't like that. So I found a line where I could actually gap into it and land on a very narrow landing. I actually had a mishap here in practice once and ended up clipping my pedal on a rock and just completely mangling it. At the time, I didn't have any spare pedals, so I actually had to borrow a set of pedals from Cam Zink, who I had never actually talked to. But he was another DD Components rider, and he let me borrow a set of his pedals for the race the next day, which was super awesome of him. Now we're coming into the elevator shaft, which is the last technical section of the course. We had been reaching speeds of upwards of 40 to like 45 miles an hour coming down it, which was insane considering you're making a sharp left-hand turn right at the bottom of it. And you never knew if you had traction because it was all this loose pumice. And it was always sketchy. It felt like you were rolling the dice because if you blew out that turn, well, you would end up in that metal barrier on the side of the course, which actually did happen to a few riders. And that's another video from the archives. Let me know what you thought of this one in the comments below. As always, my name is Phil Metz. Thanks for playing bikes with me today, and I'll see you next time.